Are your products priced correctly? Are you missing out on sales because your prices are either too high or too low? How do you know if customers see your products as high end or bargain bin? Well, in this episode of The Jam, we take a look at one way of looking at pricing to be able to figure that out. What is up? Welcome to The Jam. I am Gordon from Marmalade.
I'm Richie from Marmalade.
And today we're doing something kind of fun. We're going to kick off a 3-part series where we're going to do a little bit of a point counterpoint. And we're going to be talking about pricing. So there's a few different ways to price things. We're going to be talking about market-based pricing or cost-plus pricing. We're going to have one episode devoted to each of those. And then in the third episode, we're going to kind of compare and contrast the two of those. So today, in our first of the 3-part series, we're talking about market-based pricing.
Yes. So let's talk about what market-based pricing is. So that is understanding what buyers are willing to pay for your product, which is obviously super important. Buyers don't care what your costs are. They want to trade their hard-earned money for what's valuable to them, and they won't pay a penny more than it's worth. They will happily pay less, well, most of the time. If you charge too little, they'll think something is wrong. So let's dive into some pros and cons of market-based pricing.
So some pros for market-based pricing. The first pro of using market-based pricing is that it's competitive with what shoppers are willing to pay.
So market-based pricing, that's the whole point of it, is you're going to be charging what customers actually want to pay for your product, which is great because you're hitting it spot on.
Yeah, essentially what they're expecting to pay. When they go out and to do a search on Etsy and they see what the price of everything is that's coming back, they're going to get a sense of, okay, I'm interested in XYZ. It's going to cost me about this much money. And if you're way off from that in either direction, well, then you're not really in line with what that market is being priced at.
Next pro is that you're going to get what you're worth. So you're going to get what you're worth, not a penny more, not a penny less, if you nail it with market-based pricing. You wouldn't go take a job without having an idea of what the market rate is. No matter what type of job interview you're going to, you've got some idea of what you're going to get paid. I mean, of course, you're going to be thrilled if they're like, oh yeah, we're going to pay you double what you're asking for. But even then, you're going to be like, what's the catch?
Another pro for using market-based pricing is that you're positioning yourself based on that price. So if you want to be a bargain level product, you can position yourself that way. If you want to be mid-range, you position yourself that way. And if you want to be a premium product, you position yourself above market pricing. So you have the control over where you want your products to appear relative to the other ones in that market.
Absolutely. And we've talked about this psychological anchoring with wine, right? So in studies, people think that the more expensive wine is a better wine, and that less expensive wine is not good. And to an extent, that is true. Those big jugs of wine are not great. And every high dollar bottle of wine, you're not going to love either. There are some great wines right there in the mid-range, but it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell which is which. But people are going to make an assumption about what it is, and in like a blind test, if you tell them, hey, this is the more premium one, they automatically associate a higher quality, and that's what they're expecting.
Another pro is that Marmalade can help you with market-based pricing. And so, yes, you can do this on Etsy if you go and look up what your top performing keywords are that you're getting the most views from, and then put those back into Etsy, do a simple search, and look at where things are priced. But it's hard to get a really good sense of the numbers by doing that. If you do this, put those same keywords into Marmalade, we'll really clearly break this down for you and show you what the average price is, and we'll show you a price spread for that keyword as well. Now, you probably don't want to do this for just a single keyword because your market really isn't just that one keyword that you're targeting. Your market's going to be much bigger than that. So you'll want to put a handful of keywords through Marmalade. And that's, again, really where that time saving comes into you, because if you're putting individual keywords into Etsy and trying to look at numbers that way, it's going to take quite a while.
Yeah, it's not going to be a fun spreadsheet unless the kind of thing you really love doing, which it probably isn't. Even if it is, that's more of a hobby because that's not working smarter. That's working harder, which we'll talk about in another video. Anyways, yes, Marmalade helps with that. Definitely price positioning, super important. It's one of the most important things you're going to be able to do, right up there with quality of your product, because again, it's going to help customers understand where you fit. I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in to The Jam by Marmalade. Marmalade helps guide you to keywords that real Etsy shoppers are using, so you can get more sales doing what you love. Check out Marmalade in the link in the description or at marmalead.com.
So those are some pros for using market-based pricing. Now, there are also some cons that you need to be aware of if you want to use market-based pricing so that you can account for those when you're coming up with your numbers. The first is that your pricing may be less than a cost-based approach. If you're looking at purely what the market is willing to spend on something and you say, okay, well, clearly, this is where I should be. If I want to be a middle of the road product, I should be charging $15. But your costs for creating that are actually more than $15, well, you're going to be making money. So that's one reason why you wouldn't want to purely use market-based pricing for how you're arriving at your product prices.
Right. I mean, you only know what your costs are to make it, right? So if I was trying to figure out my cost for a bar of soap, for example, right? I mean, it's going to cost me way more than a big facility. Like Dove is going to make a bar of soap for way less than any of us are going to make a bar of soap. So it'd be really hard to compete with them because they have scale. They have massive factories. They're buying things in bulk, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're just getting started and you're doing a cost-based approach to your pricing, it's going to be way higher. In terms of the market-based price, because that's what we're talking about, it might look like it's less than the cost-based approach that you did. Because if you're buying things like, let's say you're buying a gallon of something versus later on, you're going to be buying hundreds of gallons of something as you're producing at scale, it's going to be completely different. So you got to think about that as well.
Yeah, and this is why it's really important when you're doing your research that you want to make sure you're looking at your actual market. So like gold jewelry, for example, if you're doing solid gold jewelry, you want to make sure you're comparing yourself against that market and not gold-plated jewelry, for example, which is probably going to have a very different price benchmark.
That's why we included one of the cons, because it is more work, but it's worth it. I mean, it's a core part of your business. So yes, market-based research pricing, we call it a con. It's kind of like one of those interview questions where like, well, sometimes I work too hard. It's one of those cons. It's not really a con, but it does require a little bit more work. It requires more thought. You actually have to do the research versus just plugging in some numbers, throwing in a percent, profit percent, and here's my price.
Another con for market-based pricing is that you may, after you do that research, discover that you can't in fact charge as much as you were hoping to charge for your product. And I mean, that's a real thing. You might go out there and find out that look, I was expecting I could charge $25 for this. It seems like that's what it's worth to me. That's what I've been charging in the past. But when I look at the market, it doesn't support that price. So that's something to definitely consider.
Absolutely. I mean, you might have in your head like, hey, it's not worth it to me to make this thing for less than $25. Okay, great. And then don't, right? But make sure that someone's willing to pay for it before you go all out and go there. I mean, and we're not saying to give up at that point either. We're saying if you find out that you're not able to charge as much as you hoped, explore the boundaries, explore adjacent markets, explore how you can make it either less or find out how to move into a market where you can get what you wanted to.
So there you go. There's an overview of what market-based pricing is for your products. We went through some pros and cons for you guys. Hopefully you have a better understanding of that. Stick around for next time when we're going to be talking about cost plus pricing and how to achieve that with your products. And then again in the next jam, we're going to kind of weigh the two against each other. So make sure you tune in for those later on as well. We'll see you guys next time.